Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
As promised, we have Congressman Tom Reed live on the Newsmaker line with us this morning. Thank you for calling in, Congressman Reed.
Oh, good to hear your voice, Brian. Thanks for having us on.
Well, Congressman Reed, a few things I want to go over with you. Governor Andrew Cuomo says he's going to appeal the judge's ruling on the SALT issue, that's state and local taxes. I have a little audio here I wanted to play of Rush Limbaugh. This is what Limbaugh said about that yesterday, Limbaugh being a former New York State resident.
If you're the state of New York and you were able to raise state taxes all you wanted because people paying them would be able to deduct that amount on their federal return, and all of a sudden they can't deduct. Well, now what those state and local taxes are matters. People are actually going to have to pay them now instead of being able to deduct them. So there's an obvious solution to this. If people's reaction to this is to leave New York and to leave Connecticut, to leave California or some of these other high-tax states, then what's the solution? Well, the solution would be keeping them there. You need the taxpayers. You need the tax base. You don't want them leaving. And throughout this whole story, nobody comes up with the obvious solution, which is what? Lowering state and local taxes. It's real simple. You cut your own taxes. If people are fleeing your state because of high taxes, you cut them.
Congressman Reed, you've been on Ways and Means Committee for years. What do you think of what Rush said there?
Yeah, amen. That's what we've been saying for years as we went through the fight of the state and local tax deduction. I was proud to lead the charge to preserve the $10,000 level deduction because that's a lot of hardworking Americans. That takes care of about 99% of our taxpayers in the 23rd Congressional District. But overall, you have to look at what's causing this uproar from the governor. And that's because he will not change the policies that have led to us being the highest tax state in the nation. I mean, that is the problem. And where's the root cause of that taxation coming from? Out of control, one-party rule in Albany that is driving up the spending side of the ledger, and now they have to raise taxes to meet this extreme left agenda coming out of Albany. They promise everything is free. Well, this is exactly the proof that nothing is free in these policies. And all you have to do is look at Albany and say, get the spending under control. That way you can reduce taxes. And when you reduce taxes, the state and local tax deduction is irrelevant, just like Rush Limbaugh just said, because now you don't have to use it because the deduction is not valuable anymore because the taxes in your state have gone down.
Talking live with Congressman Tom Reed this morning. Wanted to get your sense on, let's keep it in the New York State issues for the moment. The natural gas pipeline issue, you've been talking about that lately. The governor apparently, the governor prevented the natural gas pipeline from going from New York State into Pennsylvania. And you were very unhappy with something that happened in Binghamton recently.
Yeah, no, this is exactly the problem of this extreme liberal agenda, again, that the governor is not standing up to, that nobody in Albany is standing up to. They fight the construction of this natural gas pipeline. They have successfully killed it, essentially. So what happens is where people need that natural gas, and I'm talking about people in New York State as well as in the Northeast, states like Massachusetts, Maine. They still need access to that natural gas because it's powering their facilities, it's powering their industries, it's heating their homes when it gets cold. Remember, it gets cold in the Northeast. And so to bring that gas through, they've created this virtual pipeline. They have truckers that are transporting that natural gas over our roadways into the system, essentially bypassing the traditional pipeline by creating a virtual pipeline over our roadways. And you know what happened just last week? We had our first death as a result of it. One of these young individuals driving this truck on that virtual pipeline was killed in a traffic accident, and that's horrific. And that's where I called out the governor for this, because now you have a death on your watch that is a result of this extreme liberal agenda that is killing the access to this natural gas pipeline. And so the problem I have is, we're going to continue to highlight that someone has to stand up to this extremism of one-party rule out of Albany.
On the issue of energy, you appeared recently with Stuart Barney on the Fox Business Channel, and I believe it was there that you called for Governor Cuomo to end the ban on fracking in New York State.
Yeah, we have now been doing this across the country. Thank God we have. Hydraulic fracturing has been fully deployed across the country for well over a decade in its present form. It's been going on for decades prior to that. But the point that I'm stressing is, thank God we developed hydraulic fracturing to become now the U.S., and people don't realize this, but the U.S. is the world's largest oil exporter. We are producing more oil and natural gas in the United States and in North America than ever before. And what that allows us to do is, from a global security perspective, the attack in Saudi Arabia that people may remember just a week ago by Iran that shut down about 5% of the oil going through Saudi Arabia, that would have been devastating to our markets, to our gas prices. But more importantly, I can assure you, men and women would have been deployed onto Saudi Arabian and Iranian soil as a result of that attack just a decade ago. But because we're not dependent on that oil from Iran, we have the ability to say we're not going to allow our men and women in the military to be killed or injured in battle over oil. And so, this is why this is so important. And New York, in my opinion, should be leading the nation by saying, if you've got a problem with hydraulic fracturing, make sure it's done safe, make sure it's done responsibly. But we've always been a state, and we've always been a nation of, yes, we can, not no, we can't. And I just don't accept no for an answer. And so, you got areas of western New York right here that can be done, in my opinion, safely. You can protect the watersheds, you can protect the Finger Lakes, you can protect the Great Lakes, but you can access those shale formations that people have under their family farms in order to get those resources that now they don't have access to, Brian, because the governor, by just governor fiat, by government dictate, said, that property right that you've owned forever and paid taxes on, sorry, you don't get to own it. You don't get to benefit from it. And that's just fundamentally wrong.
Talking with Congressman Tom Reed. Well, impeachment's been the talk pretty much since Donald Trump was elected president. I wanted to get your sense on the whole Nancy Pelosi issue. Speaking of the governor said recently, I think it was while he was talking to Chris Christie at some forum, Governor Andrew Cuomo said he thought that Nancy Pelosi held out as long as she could against the squad. I'm not sure the governor used the phrase the squad, but that's who he's talking about and their influence. What are your thoughts on Nancy Pelosi and the way she's handled things in terms of impeachment, Congressman Reed?
I think Governor Cuomo was speaking a moment of truth. It's exactly correct. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, up to this point in time, had been trying to push back on that extremism on the left that has overtaken the Democratic Party. But now you have the governor, as well as, by action, the speaker, acknowledging the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C. and in Albany is not the Democratic Party of your grandpa, grandma, your mother, or your father. It is an extreme party that's been taken over by their faction that they call the Indivisible, the Social Justice Democrats, the AOC squad, if you would, is a poster child of it. And that extremism has just rolled over the party, and no one on the left is standing up to it. No one is standing up to this extremism because, to be perfectly honest with you, I think you got a lot of spineless political leaders that have been in Washington and in Albany way too long, and they don't have the courage to stand up and lead because they're afraid that they're going to be primaried, that somebody on their left is going to take them out in a political fight. And, where I stand on it is, that's not leadership. That's just watching your own back for your own personal interest as opposed to doing what's right. Stand up to the extremism. Stand up to it on both the left and the right. And I will tell you, start listening to that silent voice of the American majority that says enough is enough. We're proud Republicans. We're proud Democrats. But at the end of the day, you know what we are at our core? We're Americans. And that's what I'm trying to be a voice of in Washington, D.C. and across this state and across the nation.
Congressman Reed, when Trump first got into office, the big accusation against him was that he was a Russian spy, that he was a puppet of Vladimir Putin. So now they've switched to the Ukraine, which is not a Russian ally. In fact, some people are saying it's both Ukraine and Russia at the same time, if you can follow that one. Different times when you've been asked about the accusations against President Donald Trump and the Ukraine, you bring up the Biden issue of Vice President Joe Biden admitting on video, and places like the New York Times deny this. In fact, Jonah Goldberg even denied this, that Biden admitted that he put pressure on Ukrainian leaders to get the investigation against Hunter Biden dropped. I wanted to get your thoughts on the Bidens and the Ukraine.
Well, regardless of a reporter, just go to the tape. The American people are not stupid, Brian. And everybody can see the tape where the vice president is bragging about how he withheld $1 billion worth of aid, acknowledged that Barack Obama knew about it, because he actually handed the phone, I believe, to someone and said, "Here, go ahead and call him right now, and you can affirm." They were holding out $1 billion worth of aid to the Ukraine in exchange for stopping the investigation, taking the prosecutor off the case that was investigating Joe Biden's son. This is not at a time when Joe Biden is a political rival of the president. This is when Joe Biden was the vice president of the United States, acting in an official capacity to call off an investigation of his son's energy company in Ukraine. What even makes it worse? And again, the American people are stupid. What is Hunter Biden getting paid $1 million a year for, more than the other people on the board of directors that have extensive history in private business operations, in energy development? And here you got a young man who has no energy background, no extensive business training or experience, and he's making more money a year on an energy company that's being investigated for corruption in Ukraine. That's a no-show job that the president or the vice president and Hunter Biden have to answer for. And the bottom line is, for this just to be brushed under the side by mainstream media, just saying, "Oh, there's nothing here." American people are not stupid. And that's why the mainstream media that I talk to, I say, you guys have lost all credibility. Go back to being the media that we're proud of in America, where you're the Walter Cronkites. Just report the facts. Don't be afraid of the facts. Let the facts roll. Be objective. Get it out to the American people, and then let the American people form their own opinion one way or the other. And that's what this is very concerning about. And at the end of the day, now impeachment is going to prevent us in Washington, D.C. to solve problems for people that are impacted day to day for things like drug prices. Our farmers, the Mexico-Canada trade agreement, I'm very concerned that's not going to be able to get to the finish line, because now impeachment political circus is overtaking the next year and a half agenda out of Washington.
Congressman Reed, the latest on the impeachment process and President Trump is that California Democrat Congressman Adam Schiff withheld the information from the Republicans on the Intelligence Committee that there was a whistleblower. Rush Limbaugh talked about that also yesterday. Here's another audio clip of Rush.
As I read it, this story is a story trying to praise.
And he's quoting the New York Times.
As I read it, this story is a story trying to praise Schiff, by the way. This is not a story that's uncovering unsavory behavior by Schiff. This is a New York Times attempt to praise Schiff for really sharp political maneuvering and thinking. Apparently what happened is the person we know as the whistleblower was not a whistleblower. He went to Adam Schiff after he'd been told secondhand what had happened on the phone call. He went to Schiff. Schiff is who had him fill out the whistleblower form. The guy did not do it on his own initiative. And the CIA officer is who the New York Times again identifies here. The CIA officer in the White House went to Adam Schiff.
Congressman Reed, your response to that?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, I've seen these reports. I don't have any additional information than the reports. My biggest concern about Adam Schiff right now is when I did see and I did review his hearing testimony where he was at the Intelligence Committee and holding a public hearing, and he essentially, in my humble opinion, lied. Just lied. And then when he was caught in those lies, said, oh, well, I was just doing a parody of the information. No, that was intentionally misrepresenting the facts as an elected official to the public. And that, to me, is very troublesome. That shows me truly what the agenda is here. And as to, behind the scenes, who did what with the whistleblower and et cetera, we'll get more information on that going forward. But, when you're misrepresenting in your testimony to the American public, with millions of people watching the facts of the case, that is very troublesome. And it should call all those that are looking at this impeachment to question, what is the motivation here if the chief prosecutor, Adam Schiff of the Democratic Party, has to lie about the information that he's been privy to try, what's he trying to do? He's obviously clearly politically trying to influence the agenda and the conclusions of the American people. That's why, again, I go back, let's report the facts and then let the American people decide. We have an election coming up here in a year and a couple of months, and that will take care of itself. I trust the people over rather than trusting bureaucrats and investigators and political operatives out of Washington, D.C.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment with Congressman Tom Reed. Going to talk to him about the Problem Solvers Caucus and how do you function in a bipartisan way in the current culture in Washington, D.C. Stay with us.
It's October, and the holidays will be here in no time. So now is the time to get that new floor installed before the guests arrive. At Mullen Factory Direct Floor Covering in Almond, they stock over 400,000 square feet of flooring. If you need carpet, vinyl, laminate, or hardwood, Mullen's got it. Quality and durable floor coverings. And your new floor can be installed by their professionals right now with no box store wait. Special financing, including 0% interest, is available too. Mullen Factory Direct Floor Covering in Almond. Stop by and let them floor you.
And before we get back to Congressman Tom Reed, let's check in with meteorologist Rob Carolyn, who says,
I say, this is why I don't like the fall. Brian, you get days like today, just ugh. You wake up, you look out, and you're like, why am I even getting out of bed today? And it's a good choice. Go back. Go to sleep. It's a good day to sleep in. Not only do we have the clouds, Brian, but we're into the cooler air, and we've got scattered showers, too. The radar continues to show precipitation moving along a frontal boundary from northwest towards the south and east, so we've got showers out over Long Island Sound, over Long Island, through the southeastern part of the state, through our area, all the way on up into Lake Superior this morning, and they'll continue to move through the area today and into tonight. So take the umbrella. You'll need it. Cloudy skies, scattered showers. We're about 60 today. That's it. Showers will gradually taper off tonight. Lows will be 45 to 50. Does get a little bit better tomorrow. Turns partly sunny, but it's cool. We're only 55 to 60 tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow night, clear and cold, 35 to 40. Saturday, gorgeous. Lots of sunshine, just cool 60. Showers, they'll return on Sunday. Brian, the sun came up this morning at 7:10. It'll set tonight at 6:48.
Thank you, Rob. Back with Congressman Tom Reed. Congressman Reed, you are the co-founder and co-chair of the Problem Solvers Caucus. That's a bipartisan caucus in the House of Representatives. Is it hard to function in the Problem Solvers Caucus is it hard to function in a bipartisan way with all that's going on in Washington with the strong anti-Trump sentiment and the whole gotcha mentality that's out there these days?
Well, that's where the Problem Solvers Caucus, to the members in the Problem Solvers Caucus, and remember, that's 24 Democrats, 24 Republicans that I chair on the Republican side. We have committed to being proud Republicans, proud Democrats, but we stay in the room and we have debates, we listen to each other, and we try to find common ground. So the members themselves, kudos to them. They're leading. We are leading and trying to change the culture of D.C. But to the point outside the caucus, obviously, this partisan gridlock, this partisan divide is a very difficult environment for that type of legislative model to function. But I'll tell you, we're having an influence. We've changed the agenda of the majority in the House. We've changed the rules of the House to allow more debate on issues. And I'll tell you, we've got a lot more work to do. But I'll tell you, without the Problem Solvers Caucus, I think all hope would be lost in D.C. And I hear that repeatedly from folks that are just honorable men and women, both inside the members of Congress as well as outside, that say, we're the only hope that we can try to break this gridlock and start doing the people's business as opposed to partisan political business that seems to be overtaking Washington, D.C.
The squad gets a lot more attention from the mainstream media because the squad is more in line with what the mainstream media thinks. How do you overcome that, Congressman?
We build. It's a slow infrastructure type of process where you build the infrastructure of getting out there, doing the hard work of blocking and tackling, developing the relationships so that when the hurricane force winds hit us and have hit us, we withstand it because we trust each other as 48 members strong. We have each other's back, and we're standing firm. And we just go across the country, we go across the state, we go across our districts, spreading the message. And I'll tell you, it's taking hold. Yeah, the mainstream media, and the cable news often will just listen to one side or the other and just try to push that agenda. But I'll tell you, the American people are not stupid. I keep going back to this, and it's amazing when I talk to pundits in Washington, D.C., the echo chamber of inside the Beltway. I keep going to them saying, you guys got to get the heck out of this city and talk to real people. Listen to real people. Don't have the arrogance of the latte-type crowd thinking that, I'm an academic, I'm the smartest one in the room, and the people should just know better. They're just so stupid that they don't know what's best for the future of the country, so these guys just lead that way. And I'll just tell you, that's frustrating, but at the end of the day, I am very confident that the American people will win out of this debate, and the American people's wisdom will come through and keep this country growing and becoming stronger each and every day.
Congressman Tom Reed, with that, we've got to go, but I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Brian. Really appreciate the opportunity.